So hopefully you watched my part 1 video about the geography of Eden and where it might have been, but if not, it's somewhere here on the screen. Now let's get into what its purpose was. You may have already heard Adam was the priest king, the first priest king. Priest because he was the go-between of creator and creation, king because he ruled creation in the image of God, hence why he named all the animals. You may have also heard of the parallel of Genesis 2:15 and Numbers 3:7, where Adam and the priests of the tabernacle are both told to avad and shamar. Another proof of priesthood, everyone says, and then moves on. But wait a second, shamar means to guard. Priests guarded the tabernacle. Like literally, with swords, and you can see this with the Levites and the golden calf worshippers of Exodus 32:26-28. Just ask those worshippers if the Levites really meant business. Yeah, they did. So Adam was guarding Eden. From what? Now Jubilees 3:19 says he was guarding it from animals that wished to eat the fruit or trample the bushes and whatnot. I do believe that could be, and likely is, part of it. But what if he was also guarding it from humans? I've been a long believer that Adam and Eve were not the only humans wandering around the earth. This would avoid incest. And I do believe incest is not bad because of what happens to the child, but rather that what happens to the child is God's way of letting us know incest is bad. It is the relationship that makes it bad. Because if you have a sibling, I have a sibling, now it's a brother, but point is, it's different than any other guy out there. And if I had a sister, I'm sure it would be different than any other girl out there. To have that trespassed against is an abomination. It's a corruption. If you have a brother and are a woman, or you have a sister and are a man, you know there's something gross about it, regardless of the mutations of DNA and all that in the child. It's the relationship that makes it gross. So I think there were humans, aside from Adam and Eve. Maybe Adam and Eve were the first made. Maybe they weren't. But I do believe they were made. Regardless of the rest of it, I do believe Adam was made from dirt and Eve was made from his rib. I take that literally. You don't have to. So that's just a theory there. All right, so Adam, he was a guard, and he was a priest, and he was a king. What about Eve? What was her whole deal? Eve, in the Bible, is called his helper. English really messes that up because helper, it's like, well, like an assistant, a secretary, those are helpers. Those are totally helpers. No, in Hebrew, that word is how one of my friends puts it. It's like, imagine you're in a firefight, and you take a bullet. You're down. You need someone to come save you. Someone comes through, grabs you, covers for you guys, drags you to safety. That's what that word means. Like an ally that you rely on. And looking into it, it seems to be the case because it's more of like a help that if you did not have, you would fail. And that is why it seems most often used to apply to God. Because let's be real here. Without God's help, where would we be? So that's the kind of helper we're talking about. Without Eve's help, where would Adam be? And now here's where the confusing part happens, because it's like, well, it's before the fall, so the work was not laborious yet. It was not tiring. It was not draining. It was easy. It was fun, and it was fulfilling. Plus, women are smaller and weaker than men, usually. They tend to be. There's a woman that's stronger than a man out there. Women that are taller than men. I'm a shorter man. Some women are stronger than some men. Some Men are shorter than some women, but usually, men are bigger and stronger than women. So why would Eve be made that way if Adam needed help with gardening, with the hard labor? Why wouldn't she be made like Adam? So that can't be it. Instead, I believe there are two reasons. Yes, there's also like offspring and stuff, but that's not what was being talked about here, because before Eve was made, Adam was to choose from the animals a helper. Adam was not doing that stuff with animals. There are some ancient rabbis who think he was not. And I'll explain why in a second. Aside from the fact that that won't make offspring. Like, let's, that, So, there are two reasons Eve was made. One, because women have an eye for beauty that men just don't have. Even men that have an eye for beauty, when they have a good woman with them, she brings out even more. Even if a man can be more skilled than a woman in some kind of artistry, like he could sculpt a statue of a Greek god that this woman could not do. And she could still look at it and be like, what about this? And it would make it better. I've seen it happen so many times. Like, I do programming. I have a friend of mine who is a programmer and a female. I am more advanced than her. Yet she will just, what about this? Yeah, what about that? Oh my gosh, I hadn't even considered that. That's part of the beauty of women, is that they can bring out beauty in everything a man does. Even when a man is good at bringing out beauty, a good woman, can help him bring it out even more. Even when he's better at it than she is. That's one of the beautiful parts of women. That's why we always say a good wife turns a house into a home. Number 2, she helped him resist temptation. I did not know about this until recently, but if you look at the flow of the text, what does God say right before he says it's not good for man to be alone? He says, do not eat of that tree. He says, do not eat of that tree, or you shall surely die. And then he says it's not good for man to be alone. That textual flow suggests very heavily that Adam's problem was that he wanted to eat from the tree. And God saw that, and he's like, yeah, this guy's going to eat from that tree. He needs help. So the second reason for woman is to help man fight temptation. And you see this in the New Testament when Paul says it is better to be married than to burn with passion. Now, he was talking about sexual temptation, but like I was saying, this wasn't that. There was no sexual temptation here. That is a later development that women help with and men help women with. No, this is rather just temptation at all. And ask any man, or I should say any good man, any Christian man, any man who fears God, do women bring out the best in you? Do good women, I should say. Do good women bring out the best in you? He will say yes. Ask my brother, the one I mentioned before. He would say yes. He said yes at his engagement party. He said, I need to be a better man. Or someone else said that he said that. But point is, yeah, when he got his wife, he immediately wanted to be a better man. That is part of the power of woman. A man cannot be his greatest self, usually, without woman. Woman singular. And you see this today. Again, sexual temptation, but also sloth, envy, pride, wrath, gluttony. All of the 7 deadly sins. I forgot what the last one is that I didn't mention. But that one too. Pride, because a man has to put down his pride so that way he can elevate his woman. Envy. Hey, I might not have everything, but I've got her. Wrath. Guy had a bad day at work. He comes home, finds a woman who loves him. Man, there's nothing like it. Sloth. He needs to get to work. He needs to protect and provide for that one. She's counting on him. Gluttony. He can't let himself get out of shape. Again, he needs to protect and provide. How can he do that if he's obese? Now, of course, men fail in all of these temptations, even with wives. but the wife really helps him. And it makes his failure all the more demeaning, self-demeaning, self-deprecating, pathetic, because he had someone. So now he's not just failing himself, he's failing her. And you see this with animals today too. They help you fighting against temptation. Sloth, envy, pride, wrath, all the same things. Like, how can I come home angry when I have this dog looking at me with big old puppy eyes, just full of love for me, ecstatic that I am home? Or a bird that's singing a song, dancing a little bird dance. Or a cat that goes like meow, meow, meow the second you walk through the door. Or maybe it's a silent cat and it just kind of runs over. Or maybe you have a reptile of some kind. Yeah, but they help against temptation. So that's Adam and that's Eve. What about Satan? Because it was Satan. Revelation 12:9 is clear. That was Satan. What was he doing? I don't think Satan fell before or in Eden. Hot take, I know. But I have a reason for it, which you'll have to wait to see in my Satan video, because that's way too much for this series. I'm trying to keep it as short as possible. I believe he was a fellow guardian, potentially, representing the angels of the divine council. So you have Adam and Eve representing mankind, and then Satan representing the divine council. All of them are as guards of Eden. That's one theory. I believe that because I'm pulling from various myths that might be a shared history of dragons or snakes guarding things that relate to Eden, relate to paradise, paradisiology. You have Ladon guarding the golden apples in the garden of Hesperides. You have Python guarding the sacred spring at Delphi. You have Ningisida guarding the path to the divine realm. You have the Nagas of India guarding freshwater things like rivers and lakes. And you have the Dragon Kings of China who each ruled a major river. And remember, the River of Eden. So that could have been mytho-history, a remembrance of Satan guarding Eden with mankind. Another theory is that there were no snakes in Eden, because even today we have this memory of, oh no, we don't want snakes in our garden. Satan took on a snake from the chaotic wilderness and invaded the garden with it by sneaking in. Maybe because had he gone down from the mountain, it would be too obvious or someone would stop him. I don't know. But that's a theory I have. He brought the snake in from the wilderness, took possession of it. Something that hints at this is the word used to describe the snake, which is crafty in English. And the juxtaposition, the wordplay it has with the word used to describe Adam and Eve, naked. In Hebrew, crafty is arum, and naked is arumim. So they were naked, they were arumim, and he was arum. So that seems to suggest some kind of juxtaposition there, some type of antithesis. And like Bible Project says, while they were guarding and tending to the garden, they were also expanding it. God's goal was for the Garden of Eden to one day encompass the whole globe. That's why there's so much garden imagery with the good part of Sheol and with heaven and with the new earth. It's because God wanted that. That was why he made man in the first place, to rule earth by spreading God's kingdom, the garden, again, an earthly shadow of a divine principle. So they were supposed to spread the garden and take over the entire earth, make it all a paradise. But then Satan threw a wrench in that plan, didn't he? Which we will talk about in the next video, part 3. So please stay tuned for that. God bless you, and I hope to see you soon.